think all four of you have outlined the ideal. Now it's time for a reality check. And Dr. Pachauri, your organization, you personally are always interacting with companies, galvanizing them towards sustainable business. Be as honest as you possibly can. Assess whether attitudes here in India among business is changing.
Well, they certainly are changing. Attitudes are changing.
Fast enough?
Not fast enough, not extensively enough. It's one thing to talk about sustainability, but it's quite another to practice it in reality. Let me also emphasize that you would find customers and also shareholders becoming far more conscious of these issues.
And they could drive the change.
And demanding much more, and therefore they could drive the change. And I think the kind of reputational benefits that a company would get in genuinely practicing sustainability principles would be incalculable.
Change is taking place, but the pace needs to be accelerated. Do you reckon, Ms. Nandi, that based on your interactions with large companies, smaller organizations, social enterprises, that the concept is gaining traction and, you know, it's happening at a faster rate now, sustainable business?
So I think it's happening at a faster rate, but I think we shouldn't deny that underlying some of the sustainability play is looking in the long term. So I think being able to, as a business, say, you know, these are the short-term wins, this is where we're going to get buy-in and alignment, and then where are we going to really play for the long term that actually, you know, impacts the business in a positive way. I think you do need to put a time horizon to some of this sustainability piece. And I think it's both that internal, external piece, as sort of Parul was saying. And I think that beginning inside, almost like clean yourself up at home, charity begins at home, ensuring that everything's okay within your business first, then increases your legitimacy for you to work in the community. So you're not doing token community work. So, you know, little things that I think can really help that I think we're facing as a nation is how do we get more women to stay in the workforce? So little things like that. How do we get employees to engage with the community first? A lot of things you can do internally, but again, we can't deny that all of this costs money. And so there's a real need to understand, is the cost worth what we eventually see in profits in the long term? Requires some of us to put our heads together and inform businesses about the trade-off. So I do actually think at the end of the day, there's a trade-off.
You know, Mr. Sood, reflect on that. There is a trade-off, and yet you believe that for a business to be truly successful, it has to be sustainable. You can't deny the trade-off, particularly in the short to medium term. How then does you know, business managers' mind work choices made?
Well, it's like Parul said, you know, it's good for your own DNA, it's good for your own people, it's good for your own organization. In fact, we work with Dasra for a program which annually we send 25 people to work with NGOs. And these could be from vice presidents downwards. And when they come back, they're changed people. We find the capability of empathy with the customer. You know, we're a service organization. Empathy is very, very critical for us. The empathy with the customers shoots up very dramatically. We find they are far better people managers. They are far better understanders of the community at large, and in that sense, our customers. And we get our money back through that, from that change it makes on those people.
Okay, Clause 135 of the new Companies Bill, which makes corporate social responsibility spent compulsory for companies of a certain size. We're talking about 2% of net profits here. Do you think that's going to be a game changer for sustainable business?
If you look at India and you globally look at global, you know, companies, there are three ways the companies may have been divided. One is if you look at the companies in the Nordic countries, you know, your Sweden, Norway, Denmark, and all those, you know, Scandinavia and Nordic. There, the whole issue is the companies, when they publish their sustainability report, when they work on sustainability, their shareholder value goes up. The second category of companies is basically North America and your American companies, where they are still struggling on the whole issue of supply chain, greener supply chain, thinking about how they should work towards different stakeholders to see that they are included in the whole thinking of responsible business.
Sure.
India is very striking if you look at, you know, I have been doing a lot of work from last few, you know, many years on the whole thinking about investing in companies to say that, you know, creating awareness to that level to say how companies should respond. But I can say that the pace which Dr. Pachauri said is very, very slow. people are still in that awareness level to say that they're still understanding. So we are not reaching anywhere. So that's the whole thinking.
Okay, but I really wanted to understand whether the new companies bill and clause 135 is essentially at least a moral prod. I'm sorry for coming up with that phrase, Dr. Pachauri, but it's a moral prod for companies. Would you agree? Is it a step in the right direction? And reflect on whether the regulatory environment on environmental issues, beyond environmental issues, is firm enough here in India to spur corporate conscience.
Well, I think the term that you used is very apt. It is a moral prod. There's no question about it. And this is where I would submit that if you really want to bring about a change, you develop linkages with the outside world, whether it's NGOs or think tanks or research organizations, so that you get an infusion of new ideas and you're able to define opportunities in view of the newness of this particular challenge that you have. You have to extend your arms, you have to extend your intellectual resources to people outside, by which you're able to see where you can really make a difference to society and therefore to yourselves as well.
Ms. Nandi, after this new clause in the new bill, have you found a change in the conversations taking place? Has the net been cast wider to include more companies who weren't having conversations with organizations like Dasra, with social enterprises that are doing work on the ground? Has anything changed with this particular insertion?
I don't know if it's had, I think it's had an impact in starting conversations. Absolutely, there's no doubt. I must get, 5 or 6 emails every week about how some association is holding something around, understand the CSR bill for your business. Now, I don't know how many people show up to these things, but it's a conversation starter, absolutely. And India is a different country. I don't think we can compare it to the Nordic countries or the US. The disparity between the rich and the poor is so significant that I think it's more than a moral prod. I actually think it's potentially has a step change. 20,000 crores are supposed to come into the sector. Who knows how much of it will actually come and be effective. But the fact that that magnitude can actually be transformational, I think we all have a responsibility to make it be effective.
Okay, let's talk about some practical difficulties that are faced by organizations on the ground. You're, Mr. Sood, talking about sustainability within a company. It's one thing to articulate the vision. It's another thing to embed it at every single level of your organization. What's your experience been?
It's a cultural change that happens within an organization. It takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. We've been running this program for a couple of years. We have other various give back forums for our own individuals within our company, and various ways like raise your hand, partnership with NGOs, etc. Okay, so that's how we help make it top of mind. Same way, you got to change the culture and the DNA of organization and make this part of the society. Because with your own elements of people, the whole elements of people you interact with, if you manage to change them, they will change society. So you got to start. Boond boond se samudra banta hai.
Okay. Parul, when we're talking about the new companies bill and CSR spend, there's going to be a period of flux. There are going to be new sort of roles for every stakeholder to play, particularly the CFO, I imagine. How do you see all of that evolving?
It's very, if you look at the whole investment, as I've always said, spending is investment because stakeholders part of the entire thing. The CFOs or the CXO, I'll work on the whole CXO level, is they have to see that, how they should have a categorization or the committee at the board level, because this has become a board level opportunity now. So at the board level, the CXO and the entire CEO, COO and the CFO are the officers deputed by the board. So the thinking is how they have to really react to the whole situation. But as per our experience, they are really reacting very positively.
Okay, I'm tempted because offline we were having a conversation about sustainability and CSR and whether or not the two are sort of part of the same umbrella concept. Still difference of opinion between Ms. Nandi and Mr. Soni?
Yes.
Why?
The thinking is sustainability is a very broad terminology. CSR is a small part of the sustainability because sustainability is inward looking. And CSR is outward looking to say that, how you will be taking care of your, the society at large, your community at large. how the entire stakeholder management and all that perspective is CSR. Sustainability is more of your employee health safety, energy efficiency, your indicators, how your company has to be more sustainable from the whole perspective of bringing change and more profitable. So responsible business is part of sustainability, and that will drive the whole CSR terminology.
I saw Dr. Pachauri nodding. Do you agree? I mean, with the split between those two concepts, corporate social responsibility and sustainability, or am I splitting hairs here?
Well, frankly, I don't see a dichotomy because, you know, you would be effective in using these CSR resources in the most efficient manner if you also had a philosophy within the organization that focuses on sustainability. Because I think the principles underlying the two are very similar, if not identical. And I believe that a company really cannot do very much for society unless it internalizes social concerns in its own operations. But here, let me emphasize the fact that what's really going to make a difference is the manner in which the leadership of a company is going to devote itself and its resources to dealing with this new opportunity. I think this is a remarkable opportunity by which you can not only align the operations of the company to suit the interests of society, but you can also bring about internal change within the company itself.
Simply and effectively put, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for this panel discussion. I hope you found it as informative and thought-provoking as I have. To the panelists, a deep thank you. Great to have you on the show today. Thank you.